Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Steltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last year or so, I have been featuring each fille du roi, or king's daughter, and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them. So we've got a long way to go. We've come a long way. We're on episode 155, if you can believe it. But before we begin, I want to show you how you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the loop. Subscribe, like, and notify. And then the next three are ways to support and help the channel grow even more. They're an organization called Ko-fi, Etsy, and Patreon. All are ways to show your support in different ways that you can choose. So without further ado, let's get started on episode 155. So our fille du roi of this episode, her name is Marie Lemaire. And she is a viewer request. I do not have her in any of my files. So I thank the viewer who brought her to my attention. And let's get to know her story. So Marie was born in 1648 in a commune or city or town called Romorantin-Lanthenay. That's a mouthful. It's found in the region of France called Centre-Val de Loire, which literally means center. Loire-et-Cher is the department within the region that she is from. Her parents were Joseph Lemaire and Elisabeth Duplessis. The church where she was baptized dates from the 11th century. There are now about 18,000 people living in this community, and the bottom picture is a picture of what it looks like today. So let's see her journey to New France. All we know is that she sailed on the Saint Jean-Baptiste and she arrived in New France on June 30th, 1669. She would disembark at Montreal, not Quebec City. Where did she stay? She would stay at the Maison Saint-Gabriel, which is still to this day a museum that you can visit. Now, La Maison Saint-Gabriel was founded by Marguerite Bourgeois, who was the founder of the Congregation de Notre-Dame de Montréal. She was by far the most influential woman in Quebec and certainly Montreal's history. She was born in France and she came to New France in 1653 at the invitation of Paul de Chaumetti, Sœur de Maisonneuve, who said, please help me build something, and she did. The governor allowed her to use his stable as the very first schoolhouse, and this in turn became the very first school in Montreal, the first public school. She continued her work with the Fille du Roi, and she used the farm that she had purchased on Pointe Saint-Charles to feed the poor and create a kind of a second source of revenue for the church. The Fille du Roi would come here and they would be educated as to, how to live here. And also the prospective grooms would show up here, and the nuns, of course, would, have their say. And so she was actually made, Marguerite Bourgeois was actually made a saint in 1982, and she was the first Canadian woman to be canonized. And this is where our Marie, started out her journey. Now let's see who's the groom she selected. So his name is Pierre Rettel, and he was born in 1637 in a very famous place called Rouen in Normandy. His parents were Michel Rettel and Marguerite Gosset. Rouen is a city on the river Seine in northern France, and it has an amazing historical, story to it. And it was one time the largest city in medieval Europe. It played a prominent role in both English and French histories from the 11th to the 15th centuries. Joan of Arc was tried and burned alive here in this city in 1431. And it is an amazing place in terms of the church. The Church of Saint-Herblanc no longer exists, but that's a depiction of it. And it appears from my research that this church existed prior to the 9th century. It would be completely rebuilt in the 14th century. It was damaged severely by the Huguenots in the uprisings in 1562. The statue that was originally found in this church can now be found in the chapel of Saint Eustache. So if this is your ancestry, this is kind of where he would have been baptized and his family would have been from. So let's see his journey. I was unable to confirm if Pierre was a soldier, and so any of you who might have other information, please let me know. All we know is that they were married in Montreal on the 28th of December, 1669. So, you know, we know he was there. So that is his the marriage record for them. Let's see where they ended up. The family would settle at Repentigny. Repentigny itself was founded in 1670 by Jean-Baptiste Le Gardard, who was the son of the Seigneur Pierre Le Gardard. During the town's first 250 years, it was really a small, really, well, you know, really small and did not grow very much. Even by 1677, there were only 30 inhabitants, of which our people, Marie and Pierre, would have been among the first. It was only in 2002 that Repentigny merged with the city of Le Gardard, and the area doubled in size, the city doubled in size, and the population obviously grew by 70%. I've included a link so you can have a little bit more history in terms of the founding fathers. The picture on your right is actually Repentigny as it is right now along the St. Lawrence. We have an old windmill that was there, and of course the church that would eventually be established. So they would have 3 children. We would have Marianne, who married Marie Hainaut, and they would have 8 children, all of whom would make it. Pierre's mother was Fille du Roi Marie Leroux, which we have not done yet. We have Gilbert, who we don't have any information on. Pierre married Marie-Antoinette Verger and had 9 children, 7 of whom survived. Marie's mother was Anne Poitron, a Fille du Roi that we have yet to see as well. So Marie would die sometime between the birth of Pierre and the 1681 census. We do not have a death record. This would have been the cemetery that she would have been buried in, we assume. And this is the very tragic 1681 census where Pierre is alone, a widower, with children Marie, Gilbert, Pierre. They have 2 goats and they have 8 arpents malins. So he has about 6 acres of land. Pierre would go on to marry Marguerite Fontaine, and he himself would pass away between 1688 and 1691. There are, despite the tragic loss of our heroine Marie, still there were 17 as of 1729, 50 descendants, which is a remarkable thing, really, given the nature of how quickly they came and went. Because they were married in 1669. She passes away probably about 10 years after they're married. And these 3 children are obviously, actually only 2 actually survive and for descendancies and that sort of thing. So that is a remarkable story of perseverance. And here are my favorite resources. La Société des Filles du Roi, which is a lineage society that you can join by proving that you are a direct descendant of one of Les Filles du Roi or the Carignan soldier. We have the Quebec Genealogical E-Society, which is fabulous. Kind of a new kid on the block, but I just think it's amazing what they're doing. We have Nos Origines, which is a free site, and I provided the links as well. Généalogie Québec, number 4. Couldn't do my work without it. We have Migration. I get lost in that site every single time. And then we have the Facebook group, Filles du Roi Descendants, which is a remarkable group of people dedicated to Les Filles du Roi and kind of connecting the cousins, and finding out more about them. So check all these out if this is something you'd like to do. And our 155th episode of Marie Lemaire. Her life was a tragic one in the sense that she didn't get to see her children grow, and also her husband passed away very early on as well. So these children really had a hard time of it, but somehow managed to be fruitful and multiply and continue the descendancy, which is why my viewer requested her. And so we thank her for her contribution. We bless her memory. And we are most humbled by the fact that she took the courage, she had the courage to come to new friends and try her best to continue and to make new friends grow. So for that, we thank her. Until I see you on episode 156, au revoir.